Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know to take your seats. In 5 minutes, the Creator Roundtable will be starting. In 5 minutes, the Creator Roundtable will be starting. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Honey, you chose this. You're good.
Okay. Wanna rock that? Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Format High Tech Creators Roundtable. I'm joined by fellow Format High Tech ambassadors. Just a little bit about us. Format High Tech is the manufacturer of the world's best filtration. So across photography, cinematography and videography, what we do world class. And a little known fact, something we're very proud of is that all of our products and systems are actually manufactured here in Wales, in the South Wales Valleys of Aberdare. So we're very proud of the fact that we are a UK company and a Welsh company at that. I'm joined today by some of the industry's finest. In actual fact, in our opinion, the industry's finest, a range across a number of fields, from Lewis Adams, who's a very well-known and high-performance cinematographer, Josh and Trio, Sal and Bart, who are known creatives across multiple fields, Emily Lowry, who's dominating the field of micro four thirds in our opinion, and professional photographers Dibs McCallum, Courtney Victoria and James Fortune, who across a various range of both photography and videography have got a whole host of talents. So we're here today to discuss different elements. We will be taking live Q&A from both socials and the audience, of which thank you for those who are attending. There's not as much as we anticipated. So without further ado, guys, I don't know if you want to just give a little intro of yourselves and your specific fields, just in case I missed something. So, no?
Okay, I'll start. Okay, so my name's Josh. I do corporate videography mainly. That's my main sort of bread and butter stuff. So filming for big companies that have net worths of like 500 million and upwards. That's my main sort of work, and I also do YouTube about Lumix cameras and about basically how that system in of itself has grown in the last 3 years to be one of the most dominant systems currently on the market. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Lewis. I'm a cinematographer by trade, but in 2020 I started my own production company, and we make everything from music videos to short films to commercials.
Hey everyone, I'm Bart.
I'm Sal. We are Sal and Bart from Trio Stories.
Yeah, we're a creator couple, filmmakers, YouTubers and photographers.
And we run our own production company, Trio Stories. That's who we're under today. And yeah, we make short films. We work with a lot of brands all around the world. That kind of stuff, yeah. You have a microphone.
I'm Dibs McCallum. I've travelled over from the east of England, and I'm mostly focused on landscape photography. I've got a background in commercial, but over the last couple of years, especially since COVID, I've really decided I want to focus more on my landscape work, because that's where my passions 100% lay. And yeah, so feel free.
I'm Emily Lowry. I'm a Micro Four Thirds shooter. I do wedding photography and videography, and I also really love travel and street photography, which is what I tend to share on my YouTube channel.
Hello, my name is. I make videos about the behind the scenes of my landscape photography. I like to focus on the creative side of photography. Otherwise, I teach photography through workshops, presentations, and
etc. And yeah, it's keeping me out of trouble anyway.
Thank you, guys. So just another quick round of applause for those, because As a nice introduction. Thank you very much. Some people think it's quite threatening, but how do you guys, so I put it to you first, think that AI specifically, I think I heard someone put a particular view on this. How do you think AI is affecting the industry? How do you think it will affect the industry moving forward? Yeah, with certain aspects.
So I just made a music video where we used AI to edit. We obviously had to lay everything out in a storyboard beforehand, but for the visual effects, we used AI. I use AI in my day-to-day life, replying to emails, helping me create code. I think as a solo sort of producer, director, it's amazing. For the industry as a whole, it's challenging to know where it's going to go in the next 5 to 10 years. How many jobs is it actually going to take? And I think for things like copywriting, that job is looking like it's potentially going to go. And I think most jobs at creative agencies that aren't physically made by someone is probably going to go in the next 10 years. But what do you guys think?
Have you guys played with AI yet? Has anyone here tried AI? Show of hands.
We've got a couple of... Oh, we have lots, actually loads, yeah.
Okay, so how hard is it to get exactly what you want from AI as a show of hands? It's really, really hard. So I feel like now you still need the person that knows how to use AI properly to actually get what you want from it. So I think at this point, we're still very much in the infant stage of that technology. Therefore, no one's got to worry about anything until at least 5 years until we really get it down. I think Photoshop's implementation has been really, really heavily sort of focused on because they're pushing the marketing on it like crazy. But to be honest, I've played around with it. I think there's still some really good things you can do with it, but it still looks quite fake. It still looks quite, you know, animated, so to speak. So until they really iron that out, I really don't think it's going to replace anyone just yet. So, yeah.
If I could interject there, Josh, on that point, when do you have like a time frame in your head where you think that might actually happen? Do you think it will actually happen? You said it's not there yet, but I'm sure everyone would be interested to know, like, from someone who is, like you said, it's not quite there yet. Do you think there'll come a point where it will be there, or?
I think you're always going to need someone that knows how to use it.
I like that answer. I like that answer. Any other takers on?
Yeah, it's slightly different look on it. I'm completely dyslexic, so I really struggle with a lot of my written work, blog posts, workshop posts, anything like that. So I've been using like ChatGPT to create content probably for the last sort of 6 months now, and daily I use it. It's an absolute godsend for me. What would normally take me about 2 months to be writing as a post, I can have done in 30 minutes, and the framework's there. You've got to have the initial ideas to be working from, but if you once you start inputting those ideas, you've got something to start working with again, and then you can then reinsert. So exactly as you said there, you've got to have somebody who knows what they're doing to be putting the content in there. I have to use my wife quite a lot to get her to be able to proof my work before I send it out there, because my spelling is so bad. And my use of grammar is really bad as well. But it's allowed me to get content out a hell of a lot quicker as well. On the image side of things, remember we've been using content aware fill, we've been using spot healing, which is exactly that. It's just it's a smaller, lesser version of AI, and it's been in Photoshop for quite a while, and most of us will use that a hell of a lot as well. So it's, yeah, I'm all up for it. People need to embrace change. I think at the end of the day, it's yeah, and I think it's way too early to be saying what's going to be happening in the future as well, because it's so early days.
So it's interesting to hear you say that this tool is enabling for you, essentially, in a really positive way, which is great.
I wish this was around years ago.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a spin. I think maybe some of us may not have actually considered the enabling aspect of AI. Going back to what Josh said as well. You know, having to have that personal input, and you've showcased that as well, that it still needs to have the influence. So I think that's a really good. I mean, you don't hear many positive things about AI really moving forward. So I think that is.
Yeah, I mean, there's tools like Grammarly and things like that which can help with spelling and bits and bobs like that, but it doesn't help you with the use of words. You've got an idea in your head and you want to get it out there, and part of being dyslexic is trying to articulate what's up here and get it onto paper. And that's where I really struggle with. And don't get me wrong, it's not a case of I just input write me a blog on this, and then I just copy and paste that and stick that on my blog and use that as my own, because I don't, because it's not at that level where it can do that. But there's elements I can take from that and then re-put that back into my own words. And it writes in American. as well. So we're based in the UK, so it's a bit of a giveaway as well. So you do need to work out these little things as well. So
no, that's a really great perspective. James, you seem to have a take that you wanted to share on AI.
I think it's a really interesting time to be a creative. It's also quite scary. Like you say, like we are looking at jobs disappearing at some points, like copywriting, etc.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is incredibly enabling for so many different people as well. But there is a degree of concern, and I'm kind of watching things unfold like at such a quick speed as well. Like you've got to think like a couple of years ago, AI wasn't really on anyone's radar as something that was practical, and now we're looking at version 6, 7s, 8s, different softwares coming very quickly. So yeah, I don't know. Like from a commercial point of view, things will change and probably change quite rapidly, especially how like marketing agencies, etc., use content and use creative content.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot of issues potentially with copyright and infringements that aren't going to be ironed out over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So people have to be cautious with what they do and how they're using it, how they are using AI to manipulate other people's work as well, because that's something that happens quite a lot. So yeah, like I'm watching from myself, like a little like concerned, but I also think there's going to be a bit of a resurgence of sort of the organic creative work. People are going to be looking for that, and that's going to become a marketable term as well.
So I can see Bart nodding there. If you
Yeah, I think so Sal and I were actually discussing this over lunch, and we've got a slightly different take on it, because AI has actually, Dibs mentioned this, it's actually been around for a lot longer than we think. It's just currently now this marketing boom. But like, content aware fill, spot healing, things like this have been around for years. Yeah, voice isolation, So you used to have voice isolation in Final Cut, Premiere, whatever, but now they just stick 2 letters in front of it, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, magic. So I think a lot of it is marketing. Obviously, I think there is going to be a shift. There's going to be a progression. For me personally, I think a lot of stock photography is going to go down the route of AI-generated images. So I think stock photographers maybe have a little bit of thinking to do as to how to pivot. But ultimately, I mean, you can't stop the progress, and so you're either going to be swimming against the stream and fighting your way, sort of, or you just ride the wave. And same with Uber and taxis. It's a good example, Taxi drivers were striking; they didn't want it, but ultimately, I don't think you can stop the progress. So.
It's an interesting comparative, taxi drivers, AI, photography. Who thought we would have got there? But on that subject of different jobs and different people here, a nice segue into it, and I think something a lot of people might like to know from everybody on the stage. I'm going to pick on, I don't know, no, actually I'll put it out to you, and maybe something everybody wants to know, but I'd like to know from you guys as well. The progression, so it's a completely separate subject. We move from the dark side to the light and the positive. How did you become full-time at what you do? Give us your deep, dirty, dark secrets, and how the rest of us can all flourish and maybe push a hobby into a full-time operation. I'm going to go, Courtney, can I pick on you? Is that okay?
Hello. Oh, it is, the light's turned off. So, an interesting question. For me, going full-time was sort of an accident. I was very lucky that I was able to step into a full-time photography role. I would say anybody that's looking to go into full-time freelance photography, videography, it involves a lot of self-marketing and confidence. If you are confident in your work and what you can produce for clients and brands, then they are going to want to hire you and work with you. So confidence and self-marketing is a huge thing. For me, I started doing YouTube as a hobby, and I decided at some point to merge it with my passion for photography, and then decided to take my YouTube a little more seriously and put a lot of hard work and effort in over the past year, and I've been very lucky that it has paid off. And so now I'm able to work with camera companies, video companies. I'm able to teach photography and do what I love to do, which is great. I am trained in photography. I have a degree in photography, but the video is just something that I've been figuring out as I go, and luckily it's going well.
Well, we think you're doing fantastic. So,
Thank
just
you.
add that in there. But it's an interesting segue. I'm going to pick on Josh. Sorry, Josh. But I know through conversations we've had, if you want to pass in the microphone.
I feel like I'm never choosing. People are choosing for me.
But I feel like, Josh, from my perspective of chats that we've had, you're a highly established, really great videographer and photographer. You shoot for a lot of companies across a wide range. But you're also, because I've met some of them in the audience here today, quite well sought after on YouTube and socials. So like we've had conversations where I feel, and I hope you don't mind me saying to the audience, that you're, well I'm going to say it anyway, so, that you're at a junction where almost you're at that decision process where you've got to pick a tree. So how like hearing that Courtney did that self-promotion, is that enticed you one way or the other, or how do you think you'll progress moving forward to making one or the other full-time, as in creativity or the profession that you currently do?
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the fact that you have to think about. I mean,
put you on the spot.
Yeah, this is a difficult one to answer.
Do you want me to come back?
It's basically him putting my life into. Okay, so what are you going to do next? Or
Yeah. I want to know. Your wife's probably watching as well.
So ultimately, the way that I got into, just sort of preface it. So I got into full-time videography and photography from. Basically me and the director of a company that I worked for having a massive argument. I decided I didn't like what he had to say. He decided I decided I didn't like what he had to say to me. You know, basically it just ended in a disagreement. So now I was like, okay, so what do I do? Do I then carry on working full-time for someone else, or do I break away and do what I want to do? Which I'm sure a lot of us sitting here have had that sort of same, thought process. Do I carry on being the employed person, or do I be the person that's employing people? And that's difficult, to sort of sit by and sort of think about, how you're going to make the next step in your life sort of thing. But I sort of decided, you know what, I can make that jump now. So I think I was like 20 years old when I started the business. I was quite young. And then luckily I didn't fall flat on my face. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, so, and then YouTube came after that. So YouTube was something that was a passion project for me, and my corporate work was always something that paid the bills. I love what I do, don't get me wrong, but if someone said to me, what do you love the most about your job? I'd say it's socializing. I love socializing with people. I'm a very social person. And I feel like the thing that actually helps the most with starting a business, if you did want to go freelance, is being a likable person. Because ultimately, no one wants to work with someone they don't like. So you can be the best photographer in the world, the best videographer in the world, but if you're an arsehole, no one wants to work with you, right? So I've always sort of found pride in just being a nice person, being approachable and all that sort of stuff.
Unless we ask your old boss.
Unless you ask your old boss. But the whole thing about going full-time YouTube, YouTube's my passion project, and I feel like you need to have a passion project in life to, be fulfilled in a creative, industry. But I think ultimately corporate stuff that I do is still what pays the bills ultimately. So yeah,
interesting, very interesting. Yeah. Okay, your colleague next to you, Lewis, these two are thick as thieves. It's great.
To be fair, I'm the same stance as Josh. I went to university and studied film in cinematography. I then worked at an agency running the video department of 8 people, and the turnover at the agency was crazy. We was doing 1 or 2 shoots a week with models, locations, and I had to be the accountant all the way from the cinematographer and director. And I realized, why am I doing this for someone else? Why not do it for myself? I'm literally doing what I'd do anyway. And we've got the same thing of like the corporate videos do pay the bills. And my passion is in short film and music videos. But I mean, even a music video for Jessie J didn't pay that much. So you work with the biggest artists, but you'll get paid more for doing a corporate interview. So it's not always about like who you're working for, it's about what the actual job is itself, because you need to think about time, how long are you actually going to be on this, and then look at the actual figure that you're going to be taking at the end. So yeah, pretty same as you.
That's really good. I mean, it leads me, if you pass the mic to Bart, because I mean, we've spoke about this extensively. It makes me wonder a question that some people might want to be answered as well. Do you feel there's an element of opportunity in there as well, being in the right place at the right time? You guys with the creativity, I'll try not to steal too much of your thunder, I promise. But obviously you'll go on to say about that. But what I know as well as prior to that, you were doing Trio Stories also cover a lot of corporate sporting events as well. They work really, really hard, literally out at a boat, doing both stills and videography as well, and obviously now pushing forward with brands. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of go back to how we started, because it's actually quite different, I think, than a few of the guys that have prefaced this. So, yeah, let Sal take it, because you know the story, right?
Okay, yeah, I know it as well. Yeah, so what happened?
We went to uni.
We did go to uni in very traditional subjects. I was studying biology and Bart was studying law. We quickly realized that that sort of life was not for us, and we started up our own business at university. This actually gave us the opportunity to start learning photography and filmmaking, because we were doing a lot of product photography and things like this, but it gave us the time, most importantly, to explore filmmaking.
It wasn't a photography business.
It wasn't a photography business. It was a jewelry business, separate thing. But yeah, this gave us the opportunity to start shooting. And we started traveling whilst we were at university, GoPro, making like little short travel films on YouTube, and that's where the passion grew. We started more serious work for clients. Bart actually quit university early and found us some amazing jobs with clients through Kickstarter, actually, which is a really cool opportunity for anyone looking for unique jobs, actually. And this is when we realized that this is what we wanted to do. And the way that we took it more like full time was actually during the pandemic. We made a short film on our phone. We entered a mobile film festival and we were a finalist. And this gave us access to so many contacts in the industry, because some of the prizes had to, the brands that provided the prizes had to contact us directly, and immediately then we've got an in with someone. It was a huge opportunity for networking, and that is what really took off our business.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's a lesson, there's a consideration there to make. I think a lot of people's paths are going to be different, and to be honest, a lot depends on your risk tolerance, because if you're risking your livelihood, if you're risking your mortgage, or, you know, basically $5,000, $50,000 or whatever, it's a different value to different people. Like, I decided to quit uni after like 4 years of studying law, obviously like £100,000 in debt. So it was a big risk, but at the same time that gave me enormous motivation, because the day after I was on the phone for probably 3-4 hours calling people up saying, can I do photos for you, can I do photos for you? And then like that motivation can really kickstart your career. So if you've got a big risk tolerance, I'm not saying to everyone like, oh, just drop everything and go for it.
Yeah.
But if you've got a big risk tolerance, with that comes also like massive motivation in a way. So
yeah, I just wanted to add there as well that we started our filmmaking alongside having another business that was bringing in the income. So even though you did quit university and that was a bit of a risk, generally we were quite comfortable there. And I think that's also how a lot of people start. They'll start as a hobby where they've got a separate job actually paying the bills, and then they'll slowly grow into a full-time position.
That's really, it's an interesting dynamic to the original question of starting out, how you guys like balance that. I'm going to pick on Emily, if I may, because from outside perspective, like, you seem to balance the two worlds quite perfectly, because obviously you started with your photography, videography business, but you're also all over socials, for instance. So, yeah, is there an insight to be had there? Like, how is there another Emily? Is there a twin in the audience somewhere that we don't know about? And
yeah, there's two of me. That's how I get everything done. So, being full-time as a wedding photographer and videographer, I was about 10 years in, and because it is so seasonal, I started my YouTube channel in the winter to try and create a little bit of additional revenue when I had a bit of time.
Okay.
And then over time, that has sort of snowballed to take over the weddings, to which now I would say I'm a full-time YouTuber that has a bit of client work, and it's worked out really well, touching wood.
No,
with some YouTube sponsorships on the way, it's been really good.
As someone with a full-time position who would love to, have an audience or be in a similar position, and I'm sure there's lots of us out there, I just find that your ability to balance that, you're either like an organising guru or there is a twin. But yeah, no, that's really fascinating to find out. On the flip side of this, if if I could pick on James, obviously you were originally a professional photographer, but you've been doing a lot of video lately as well. I think that's fair to. But you've been quite vocal, at least with us, in that you're more word of mouth website rather than socials. So in terms of getting into how you got into it and not using like the social side of things, is there an aspect or an element there that you think would help people trying to get to your position?
Oh man, great question. I don't know, it's funny, like I did use social media a lot more than I now do.
Yeah.
I feel like I've taken a real step back from it because it's not been giving me what I want to give. It's taken up too much of my time, for instance.
Right, okay.
And, time's just, it's something that you don't get back.
No.
I had to pick and choose. It's like, well, do I focus more on that? Do I put more time into that and make that grow into what I want? Or do I find a way to make something else work? So, I still use social media. I think I'm just human. Humans use social media
So
now.
if I can keep you on that topic, another topic I'd love to discuss with you guys, and I think it's one that, I mean, we're at the Wales and West Photography Show today, but we're seeing a lot of video, and obviously the market, everyone can identify as moving more into a hybrid term. So you started as a photographer primarily. You've been doing a lot of high-class video lately as well, with stills too. How do you feel, or how do you feel about the market, or do you agree? Do you think the market or this industry is moving more towards a hybrid way of moving forwards? Like, how does that fit in with you, for instance?
That's a good question. I feel as creatives, you are squeezed for more and more from your clients now.
Right, okay.
People want more, and people expect more. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. Is that fair to say? And part of the challenge is to try and manage expectations so you can know that you're always going to deliver what your client wants. So if a client wants video and photography, you go, well, how much of that can I deliver as an individual within your time frame? And obviously if it's feasible, then great. If not, then that's a conversation that you then have to have as well.
So Courtney, I think that you manage that quite well as well, because like your YouTube is very, it's fascinating. You've taken what I would consider was the attractive side of photography on TV, and you've managed to captivate it into your YouTube channel to make it not only like how-to and tutorial, but also fascinating to watch your process and everything. But it's quite evident from watching your videos that it is about photography, but it's a video. So how do you approach that?
So video has been a way of me getting very good exposure for my photography. I have a lot of fun with the video, and I think it's incredibly useful. I think it's really great that people who have never done video before can now pick up a camera and take photos and also experiment with video. And I think we are definitely in a period where video is one of the most popular forms of content across the internet. You'll find that, instead of just reading the news or a newspaper now, everything's in video content, in video form. The younger generations are growing up with video pretty much, TikTok, all of these apps. And I think it's great. I think it's a great way to put across information, to learn new things. In terms of my landscape photography, it's a great way for me to teach photography in a way that is easily accessible to those who want to learn about photography without having to pay for a course necessarily if they can't afford to or are not able to. I think it's a great way to allow other people into my insight of how I work and how I create my art.
That's really wonderful. I'm going to move to Dibs next. Because James, you mentioned managing expectations, and we not so long ago had a discussion about how you were being pulled into work because you were good at it that you didn't particularly want to do, and you were finding those expectations not so much challenging, but more pushing towards an area you didn't want to. So
it was a tricky one for me because I was just finishing my master's degree in 2018, and I was having to create a lot of commercial work. I did a commercial photography degree, and just picking up on the video side of thing. Oh, mic just died.
There we are. I think we've got a handy.
And the photography degree, I did was just starting to get geared up towards video as well.
Yeah.
But it was a big commercial basis on what I was sort of working on. So that's kind of led me into that. Unfortunately, I live in the east of England, so it's a bit of a chore to get anywhere from there. So I was having to go to London to pick up some nicer jobs, or Nottingham. I was doing a lot of events photography and stuff like that as well, which I really enjoyed, don't get me wrong, but having a child as well, I was missing out on a lot of important time with her, and there was a lot of travel time as well. So on top of a 6, 7, 8 hour shoot, there was also 4 hours of travel, and then there was backup time for video, well, for images. I don't really do a lot of video work myself, so it was getting pretty hard, and I reached burnout. I hold my hands up, I absolutely burnt myself completely out, and 2018 end of that was not a really good time for me, to be honest, and it was lucky I had some good friends around me as well. That gave me having my friends, my wife, counsellor as well at the time as well around me, it allowed me to have the confidence to take a step back from what I was doing, and I took a sidestep in my career. I was working as a photographer there and then, running a lot of workshops and other bits and pieces, and I decided to sort of take quite a sidestep, and I went and took a PAYE job, and I've not looked back at that since. But I get to test video in photo editing software every single day of the week. So whatever I shoot during the weekend, I get to take that and I test that on video and photo editing products, and help develop our own products in-house as well. And then I do my own work. Everything I shoot now, for me, is from the heart, and that's what my sort of plan has been. COVID came along and put a bit of a stopper on that as well. I had to ask myself the questions: what is my photography bringing to the world? Do I need to be out there taking photos while COVID is rampant? And the answer to myself was no, so I made a decision not to. I thought, I'm going to put my plans on hold, just stick at the job. I've got an income coming in, I've got my health, I've got my family. They were important things to me, and since COVID sort of has dwindled away, I've started making that push again now. Not with video, it's something I get on with. I started the whole YouTube thing, as most photographers do. Started getting there quite well with it, and was really, really enjoying it. But I started to find the video aspect was taking away from the photography element as well. So I decided I want to focus on my image making as an asset, really, and just to enjoy that for what it is.
Okay, well, thank you for your answer. I think that's really encompassing. I'm a gilded cinematographer, and I was recently asked by my guild to write an article on mental health within television professionals. So it's interesting to, it's a segue into a question I would like to, I think I'll put out to Lewis, because you're quite prevalent these days. You are up, down, left, right, all over the country. And as someone who's younger coming into the industry, and I'd certainly love to hear what everyone else has, the term burnout, some people might see when you're not so full-time as an actual issue, but it is a very real and affecting thing. It's something I've covered in my article. As someone who is as busy up and down the country traveling, like you said, putting in those hours, is that something you worry about, or do you have a coping mechanism for creative burnout?
It's normally when my girlfriend gets mad at me that I know that I've got really good marketing at the moment with our Google SEO, so we're getting loads of jobs coming in all the time. But it then means, how do you budget time for these jobs? If one job goes over, it's
a process system in place.
Yeah, no more than 4 2-day shoots.
Wow.
Because it's the pre-production and post-production on top of that. If we have a large production that's like 4 or 5 days, that will have to be like a standalone production that takes 2 weeks of
course, because that's after 5. That was a dumb thing to say.
Maths with Josh.
And the first sort of 2 or 3 years, of course, you spend all your time trying to make it a week, but your family would never forget you. And it sort of really stuck with me. It makes me realize actually priorities in life should be about the people, not about the work itself. So as long as I've got enough time to go out and have a dinner with my family and do that, then I think that your scheduling's fine. So yeah.
Brill, over to Bart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when we started out, was the time when hustle culture was like the thing to do. So like hustle culture was like super sexy, like, you know, posting on Instagram like, oh, I've done 3 all-nighters in a row, and we actually got marketed. Like, I was thinking, the more we can do in a short period of time, the more we can travel, the more projects we can take on, the better we'll be, you know. And I think that was like, I don't know, super dangerous for us.
So just for everyone out there who might not be aware, hustle culture.
Yeah. You want me to define it?
Yeah, go for it. Shoot.
Yeah, we did do a podcast. Well, do you remember what it is? I don't know.
Hustle culture.
Yeah, just define it. I don't know.
Do you want me to take over?
Define hustle culture. It's
So-
it's basically prioritizing work over everything else. It's like first and foremost that's your priority. That's
Pretty much saying
basically
going
it.
for it from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. You are
Yeah.
on non-stop at work because that's all that matters. You have an outcome at the end, and it is you're proud of it. And obviously, you can kind of guess and understand the effect that comes from living a life in such a fast manner. Is that a fair?
Yeah. So many jobs all around the world that there was only one time we spent in our apartment for longer than 2 weeks. So we were all over the place, and that was really crazy. After that, every job that comes in can be the biggest job that you've ever done.
Yeah.
So how can you say no to that when it's
How do you say no? For people who out there might be on the cusp of talking to a brand, looking for a next job, maybe.
We morally want to work with that company, or you know, whether it's people that we're going to click with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got also and had to say no, and
That's
instead,
really big.
it was huge. It was the first time we've ever said no, and we've been doing this for like 6 years.
No.
So yeah, you can say no and prioritize your own health.
Dibs, I'm going to pick on you again. Dibs, back to our conversation. You really owned the.
Yeah,
I know who I am.
I said no. It was really hard. Sometimes I'd take a lesser paid job because I knew it was going to be good fun to work on. There was going to be more creativity involved in it as well.
Yeah.
And now I still get tagged. Too busy to take on, but the ones I really like the look of, I do get in contact with because it's actually something that I would like to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important to me now, is something that can be.
And I think, like Sal, you said that becoming self-aware, I think that's a big part of this step into full-time who you are and what you're about. I think it's something that everyone here does really, really well as well. So, it's come up a couple of times, and obviously we're coming out of it, and it's almost getting to a moot point discussing it, but the pandemic has come up a couple of times with this. So, Emily, with being someone who...
rescheduled years and years in advance to, I think I only did my final rescheduled COVID wedding maybe 6 months ago.
Wow.
It really had an impact.
Yeah.
And when wedding photography, Lightroom courses, things like that.
Okay. Really.
Sitting at my desk, but it was ideal for that. Skills is very important because you can pivot and change a little bit if you do need to. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Well, I think we can all agree to that. But no, that's really fascinating to find out. Are those courses still available? Can people...
So when the pandemic hit, I was living abroad in South Korea. I was actually an English teacher, and I was not doing photography.
Wow.
Photography was a hobby for me. And so I was living out there, and all of a sudden the country I lived in the most rural province you could find in South Korea, and so I was locked down in a tiny rural village, unable to go anywhere, and that sort of wasn't able to stay there. So I came back to the UK and I was unemployed. I did continue to teach freelance for a while, but I realized that I wanted to pursue my passion of photography. I came back to the UK in August 2020, and it wasn't until sort of June 21, I believe, that we were allowed to sort of really go out and about.
Yeah.
And I missed being out. I missed being out in the forest. I was living in South Korea, so that really motivated me to really get out as much as possible, to go and pursue photography and videography as well. So now I just spend as much time.
The topic is kind of tying in really nicely to show the importance of being able to pivot as a creator.
Yeah.
So AI, video,
I kind of did
ourselves in the creative field, and I think that is just super, super important. I mean, for us during the pandemic, we like lost the vast majority of our clients because they were for companies with like minimal footage maybe that we'd shot before, and using 80%, really strange. Then we decided to also start a YouTube channel, so that was sort of...
Potatoes thrown at her, and we apologise to the audience in advance, but the AI actually turned Nikon into... turning his Canon into a potato when she asked it them.
Yeah, but I just really wanted to hone in that point of like taking advantage of jump on shorts as well, like with YouTube Shorts,
They want verticals as well, so we can obviously make some more money there. But yeah, now I just got an S5 IIX
video and photography content. Josh is a Lumix ambassador.
Saves time in production, saves time in post-production, and it's just a lot easier. And like I think every other camera company should be jumping on this bandwagon. Yeah. Because for every single person here, I'm pretty sure we can all. Yeah, it's so useful, and like, that's pretty much why I bought the Lumix.
The DSLR or mirrorless cameras are somewhat slightly over sharpened, so look a little bit more digital than, let's say, a cinema camera. So sort of softening up your image. I have at the front of my camera, and then just a neutral density filter as well. Of course, if you use a variable ND, then you can get sometimes the crossing. If you guys have ever used that, it creates this horrible vignetting look sort of thing.
As we were there, something that we're noticing as a company in trends, I'm not sure if anyone in the audience would agree, but you actually honed this. We're seeing diffusion being a YouTube channel, and also we did a short with James as well, so you can hear a bit more in depth about this particular video. But there was a very specific reason why you chose to use diffusion. Would you care to share that with our audience?
I'd actually left the diffusion filters in the car, thinking, oh, I'm probably not going to use them for what you're thinking about, but I just looked at it and I was like, this is the perfect place to try this. Oh no. I was like...
on our stall over there, we've got 6K, 8K visible cameras, and so the resolution is fantastic. The glass that's being shot on is very sharp as well, and so taking off that digital image to add another aspect to your video.
Various aberrations from your lens, lens flares. Video guys love it, of course. It serves a really good narrative purpose and can really help suspension of disbelief.
Yep.
But using something like the diffusion filter for that, it really softened the effects of the lens flares, the aberrations, and hazy forest sort of thing. Sunlight beaming, it was
it's a shame we
perfect tool for it.
We didn't have it to put up here, but you can actually go over to James's socials, and that shot is up. It's beautiful, to be quite frank. We're running short of time, unfortunately, as much as I could sit here and ramble all day. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody would like to ask any particular person? So, chap there was, how, for your videos, do you script, and if so, how? How do you come up with those? Oh, I think we've got...
Because there's so many things involved there. So we've really dialed in our workflow using Notion. It's an app which is incredible for this kind of thing, and we also get, because they can see everything laid out there. So firstly, brainstorming, we're quite wild with brainstorming. We're known for taking all of our ideas way too far.
They're broken down into like color palettes, things like that.
We also use AI to generate some images to show clients our like ideas and concepts.
Yeah. So we'll like actually generate frames, and in some projects we've managed to get a frame that, you know, if you put it next to the AI one that we generated, we would obviously go through the deliverables, the budgeting, break down the budgets, so travel, props, talent.
I think maybe if I've got. Maybe about talking in front of the camera and how you structure that, potentially. Emily, you're fantastic with that as well. Is there like when you're giving your... how do you come to fruition of the whole thing? Like, what's the...
Yeah, so when I'm doing sort of a product review, for instance, I'll be taking notes on my phone through talking point, bullet points, and then just be a little bit more fluid. And I think my style's a little bit more conversational.
Yeah.
I use a piece of software called Millernote, which syncs on your phone and your iPad and your laptop. And then when I'm out and about, I can take rough notes, and then I can flesh it out when I'm at home. Yeah. And then I just have it on the desk with me and sort of take a bullet point by bullet point.
Well, I mean, I use Miller like digital sticky notepads, and it helps to visualize, but also, as you said, it's not so structured that you can't be conversational and human with your perspective. A little bit. Oh, that's a splash.
It doesn't really matter anymore. You can still get a good image. But I think that that is ultimately the biggest deciding factor is your rolling shutter, and also what was the other point I said? For my work, and I could decide between getting a cinema camera or a hybrid camera. I think your money would be better spent nowadays on. I think if you have a camera that can shoot 4K that does at least 10-bit video, that's pretty much okay for most things.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Really, really, really comprehensive answer.
You can shoot anything on an FX3, and that's it. Like, in my opinion, if someone comes to me and says, oh, okay, it's an S3 then, it's the same camera, but not classed as a cinema camera. Okay.
Hybrids can do everything.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for the people with the thoughts in their head in the crowd, and I know you're in a good position to answer this. Going back to what James said, and
on data.
Yeah.
So if it's a smaller client, I just show up with a gimbal and a Lumix.
Yeah.
But on obviously the larger sets, if they want to go a step further, we can rent a Red or an RE. But that's that I try and make sure.
Once it'll be like we're not that interested. So what actually the first client that I got in London, it was night times we were in London and their shop looked fantastic. So I took a photo of it and I printed it and I posted it pretty much. That's what I'd say.
That's a really fantastic answer. Really good.
Just a quick one. I think it's a little bit maybe not unconventional, but in the age of social media, everyone be like, oh, you've got to be active on social media, you've got to have a super beautiful website. I think we've come back full circle that actually in-person networking is now. A voice, a human face just goes a long way.
Mine is going to go back to Notion, and the way that I did approach a cold, just straight up went in there with the confidence to say, look, I want to do this work for you. Here are the deliverables you'd get. Here's these examples of our work, like very.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know how you all feel, but like to answer your question from my perspective, and to go back to what Josh said, I think it's important to build a good portfolio that tells you as well and what you can do, because it's great to connect with these people. I don't know how you guys think about this, but it's great to connect with these people, but to show up without nothing to show. And of course, it's like the chicken and the egg, isn't it? You've got to get that work to show that work. So it's about not being afraid, because although you're not being financially benefited from that, you will get financial benefit from that. The free work that you're providing or services is giving you something to showcase and move forwards. I'm not sure how, or if you guys would agree with having that as well, having a decent portfolio. I've struggled this year to maintain mine, but again, word of mouth is actually fantastically working, so I haven't needed to myself. Weddings, is that more of a word of mouth? A lot of people here that might necessarily consider their first step.
I started off offering my services as an associate shooter or a second shooter for people that were more established in the industry. Yeah. And then what you want long made someone's sister the year after. But starting out, it really is just working for more affordable day rates, or even for free if you are trying to.
For all of us, because we're probably all competing, but take it away.
I've got like an idea, not specifically like the day rates, but how we were kind of figuring out our price points was the expensive. Yeah, well, yeah, so that's one way of trying it out, I would say.
Yeah, Brill, anyone else want to?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. I think it's a very hard concept to figure out, that because you want to say yes to everything when you start out, but when you're more established, you want to almost say no. Yeah. If everyone is biting your hand off, you aren't appropriately priced. And it's also about choosing the right clients and being a little bit more specific. So I think that's really good advice.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. I also I think I'm going to disagree with you, Sam, a little bit.
Okay.
On the offering free work.
Yeah.
Because I understand, but I think even if you're a beginner, you are still worth something. So if you go to a cafe and you take shots for their menu, if you get paid 20 quid or 40 quid, or you get a free meal, that might be the worth that you're giving them. Yeah. But you're still giving them some value. And if you're starting out as a part-time photographer, that makes you feel completely different. Even, like I say, even to having like a voucher for their £20, all of us feel completely different doing that work. Yeah. And I think the client as well feels different. If they're getting something for free, they don't attach any value to it. I mean, I think a football club in the Premier League recently.
In very well festivals, a lot of money involved, and then image theft of images that I've shot for said festivals as well, that I retain copyright, and then we get on the discussions of how much you charge for a day rate, and things like that as well. And that's how I got into photography. I was fairly ill, and I was photographing some your computer software, there's your computer and electricity, and ultimately there's your time as well. And I understand that it is nice to do, but you don't want to be taken for a ride, exactly as you sort of
expect them to pay you. I don't think, like for example, I've approached big companies before. We're talking like, you know, companies that could be on like the FTSE 100 or whatever it is, like big companies. But like, hey, I want to shoot this for you. And for me to go, okay, it's going to cost $8,000 for me to come and do this, that's ludicrous. I've approached them. So realize that if you're trying to work with a certain company, then you have to bend over a little bit in order for them to, you know, notice you. Yeah. And then another point I wanted to make on this whole topic was, sometimes it can negatively impact the whole industry if you price yourself too low.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've actually had it a few times where I've gone, okay, my rates are this for that, and then they've gone, oh, well, someone else can do it for this amount. I'm like, okay.
He puts a screwdriver on a nail and he hits it. You've been here for 10 minutes. He went, no. I've been doing this for 50.
My half day is 3 hours for photo or video, and the day is $850. So for 6 hours, it's £850, and then for 3 hours, it's $550. And then I have all my own gear. I own all my own gear. But if you're renting equipment, then of course charge that as another cost. So yeah, I don't want to be the guy that says, "Oh, you should be doing this," and not tell you. So yeah, is that cool? Okay,
that is cool.
Or what the market's doing, what everybody else is roughly costing you. You don't have to know.
Come down, and I'm sure we can discuss all day the topics that we've got here, or any questions that you might have had that didn't get answered. A couple of the guys are running workshops as well, and they're all on Eventbrite, so you're able to book in and find out various subjects and everything else. I'd just like to say for myself and from Format High Tech, a massive thank you to you guys for coming and providing this wonderful insight and expertise. I think we could debate for the food, we could probably debate for the entirety of the night, but if we could just give them a massive round of applause, because and thank you ever so much. Thank you. I think we're literally being kicked out now, so thank you for your time.
That's what we're doing over the Indian, yeah? The real debate is over the Indian later, yeah?